Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 9 around the NFL. Got some good games, some surprising games for sure today too to talk about. So we're going to jump right into this thing with the first one, Browns-Bengals. Browns win in Cincinnati 41-16. I guess we didn't see this like blowout coming. I'm not like shocked that the Browns won, to be honest. Cincinnati was the favorites, but this doesn't shock me. I know the Browns have this in them. I didn't know they had 41-16 in them, but just a good all-around win for them today. Baker was 14-21, 218, two touchdowns. Nick Chubb had 2 touchdowns on the ground with 14 carries, 137. Those touchdowns that Baker threw went to Donovan Peoples-Jones, who caught a 60-yarder for a touchdown, and David Njoku caught 1 for 18. Not a lot going in the passing game. They didn't really do much. Landry caught the most balls with 3 for 11 yards. A bunch of guys had 2. Some guys had 1. And then Peoples-Jones obviously had the 86 yards because of the 60-yarder. No one else had more than 26. So they scored 41 points. So the defense is what got them there with this one. I think they got a pick for a touchdown in this one. So just good all around. Nick Chubb's good. He had a 70-yarder touchdown in that one. Just easy win for Cleveland. They only had to complete 14 passes to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really more to say about Nick Chubb is very good. I like that Cleveland kind of rallied around it. It felt like there could have been like an uproar after OBJ and what's going to happen with us. And, you know, they're 4-4. They should be better. Cincinnati had like their offense has been hot, and they really kept the big plays at the minimum. And I think that's what's really, really good to watch. Like Cleveland does have a legit defense. So it's good to see them do it. And this is what you want to see Mayfield do. He doesn't need to win the game. He just needs to, move the chains, make a few big plays. But you're not asking too much of the guy at the moment. He's just got to play smart. So it was a really good win. On the other side, it was finally Jamar Chase kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. He still had a whatever game, 6 catches for 49 yards, but he came close to like catching another touchdown. But yeah, I think they're finally keying in on him. And T. Higgins actually looked really, really good. He had a couple of other catches. One would have been a touchdown. One would have been like a 30, 40 yarder. If he would have made miraculous catches, he could have had like a career day. But they went to him early and often, 6 for 78. But yeah, they just never really got it going. Joe Mixon had a nice game though, since he rushed 2 touchdowns in.
Yeah, Mixon at 110 total yards and 2 touchdowns. So he actually had a solid outing. So Chase, 6 for 49. He didn't get the big play touchdown. They did look for him a couple of times on it, but he did have 13 targets again. So Targets are there. Burrow, 282, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Don't love this game, but again, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just put it in the rearview mirror and look ahead. They'll be fine. Next up, Broncos Cowboys. Now this one was a bit more of a surprise. Broncos win 30-16, and that's after the Cowboys score 2 late touchdowns to give them that 16. It was 30-0 in this one. It was 30-0, and then Dak goes, and with 6 minutes left, Dak had 2.2 points, I believe. He's on my team in our main league. I think he had 2.2 points. He goes and puts up another 20 in the final 6 minutes of garbage time. Yeah. I didn't even know if he'd play. I thought they'd pull him, honestly. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know.
Looking back at it, it's pretty stupid, I think, of Mike McCarthy to play Dak in the last 6 minutes down 30-0 when he's just coming back from an injury. I mean, not just this, just not the couple 2 weeks ago, but last year as well. And you're just going to play the guy in for no reason. Oh, stupid. Love it for my fantasy team, but stupid. So thank you for that, Mike. Thank you, Mike McCarthy. You did something good for me in that regard.
Insanely idiotic.
Not smart, but
the garbage time points are still points.
They're still points. We look at the final score. He ends up with 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns late went to Malik Turner, which was surprising.
Saved his fantasy day.
CeeDee Lamb was 2 for 23. Amari Cooper was 2 for 37. That was ugly.
And Amari Cooper had a bad drop. I mean, the Dallas, I got to give more credit to Denver. I think they had the most impressive game of a team, period. Just both sides of the ball doing a good job. But Dallas looked all out of sorts, and I would like to say that was mostly Denver, but every once in a while, I feel like you get this kind of game. Like Cooper dropped a ball, Dak overthrew guys multiple times, like that should have been like long touchdowns. They just couldn't get it going today.
Yep. I think the 76 total yards for Zeke on this one. So for Denver, Bridgewater threw for 249 and a touchdown. That touchdown went to Tim Patrick, who was 4 for 85. Jerry Jeudy 6 for 69 in this one. On the ground, they ran the ball 41 times. 17 went to Javonte Williams, who ran it for 111. Javonte Williams looks good, but Melvin Gordon's not going anywhere. He had 21, 21 carries for 80 and a touchdown. Javonte didn't get in. He didn't get in on a goal line. He had 2 looks from like the 2 and the 3, one, and then I didn't get a good look at the replay. I believe he was in. I really do. As a Javonte Williams owner, I really truly believe he was in. It was close. They didn't go to review it, and Bridgewater then snuck one in on the very next play. So that was disappointing in that regard. It could have been a massive day. But Javonte Williams, he's a good player. He's looking really good. But the problem is, it's just Melvin Gordon's not going to go anywhere. It does not matter. Melvin Gordon's not leaving. So
and Melvin Gordon looks really good as well.
Yeah,
both of them do. And Javonte Williams looks like the younger guy. Like he is running through people. He truly looks like he's kind of found his footing. And I think he's only going to keep getting better and better and better. And if he ever finds the end zone like Melvin does, this guy will be extremely dangerous. I do have to say this team was very, very interesting because I like that they're a run first team. Teddy Bridgewater does what you need him to do. He's even more stripped back than like Baker Mayfield, but he does have quite a few weapons to throw to, even though Noah Fant was inactive for today. But Tim Patrick, every time I think that Jerry Jeudy can kind of like establish himself as number one, if something's banged up or they're not going to him, whatever it may be, Tim Patrick just will not go away.
Yeah.
Every time they need a big play from him, he makes it. It was very, very impressive what he was able to do today. Him and Javonte Williams really stood out.
Yep. Sutton, I think, had 1 catch for 9 yards, but he did get a 2-point conversion as well. So give you a couple more points. All right. How about Dolphins, Texans? Dolphins win 17-9. I guess hopefully you followed one of our suggestions of defensive play was Dolphins, even though they had not been good. The Texans are bad and ended up being a good day. I think they had 3 picks in this one. So for the Dolphins, Tua was a surprise inactive. We weren't really expecting that, but he has a fractured finger apparently. So he missed this one. Brissett was a starter, 244 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks, not much there. Myles Gaskin ran the ball 20 times for a whopping 34 yards. But he got a touchdown. He did catch the ball 6 times for 23 yards though. He had 57 total yards on this one. He's just not, honestly, he's not that good. But he got a touchdown, so he saved your fantasy day. He's not that good. He's just not a good player.
Not necessarily garbage time, but garbage points are still points.
Yeah, they're points. Points are points. I just don't think he's any good. Jalen Waddle, 8 for 83 in this one to lead the way for Miami. Gesicki was 4 for 54. Texans, there's not going to be much here. Tyrod did come back in this one, but he threw 3 picks, 240 yards and 3 picks. Phillip Lindsay led the ground game with 8 carries for 28 yards. Brandon Cooks got himself 6 for 56. Danny Amendola 3 for 49. And Houston is a very bad football team. Very, very bad. All right. How about Falcons Saints? Falcons get a win on the last second field goal in this thing, 27-25. Saints went with Trevor Siemian in this one. And you know what the weird thing is? They did not use Hill very much. I was actually surprised at that. I thought, okay, they start Siemian, but you're going to get a lot of Taysom Hill mixed in here. Maybe that's just still coming back off the concussion. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with it. We'll see next week, but odd.
I feel like it is a health thing. I feel like they weren't comfortable just throwing him back into the fire. So that has to be what I believe, because Falcons feel like a very, very bad team.
But they're 4-4 now.
They're 4-4, and they just beat a New Orleans team that was very, very hot. And I realized that you don't have Bridgewater anymore, but it shouldn't be this close.
No.
And the fact that Atlanta got another win is mind blowing to me.
Well, and they were actually, I think Falcons were up by a bit more. Saints had to come back to take the lead and then lose it anyway. But let's say for the Falcons side of things here, talk about them first, I guess. Matt Ryan, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both of those touchdowns went to I never can pronounce this guy's name. Zacchaeus. He had 3 for 58, 2 touchdowns there. Cordell Patterson, though, was the story through the air. 6 catches for 126 yards. Russell Gage did show up this week after getting the nothing game last week with no targets. He has 7 for 64. Pitts was 3 for 62. On the ground, Patterson didn't do much. He had only 9 carries for 10 yards. And Mike Davis is garbage. He had 9 carries for 13 yards. If you drafted him, I'm sorry. You should have been listening to us. He's not good. He's not good. He's not good at all. All right. For the Saints, we talked about them a little bit, but Simeon threw for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hill was 2 for 2 for 33. Alvin Kamara, 13 carries, 50 yards. He got himself a touchdown there. He had 4 catches for 54. So 104 total yards and a touchdown. Hey, that's
still got it done.
Yes, not bad. Traquan Smith, 3 for 53. Deontay Harris, 6 for 52. Adam Troutman, 4 for 47. Callaway, 3 for 25. He had a touchdown. Kenny Stills got one as well with 2 for 30. Yeah, you don't really want anybody in fantasy other than Kamara here. Ingram was 9 for 43. He's definitely involved a little bit, but you don't really want much in this team. It's interesting.
No. And I'll be very interested to see if Hill becomes a bigger play on here. He is such an interesting play because you don't really want to play Simeon, but Hill could really open up a lot of things. But at the same time, I do think it'll be at the peril of other players on the team. I don't think it really changes a whole lot.
Yep.
But if you're desperate for a QB, like some of us are, that's going to be a very, very intriguing one.
All right. How about Giants, Raiders? Giants win 23-16. I mean, I guess it's an upset in a way, but the Raiders, you just don't believe in them, even though they were 5-2. For the Giants, Daniel Jones was 15 to 20, 110 yards and a touchdown. He did not have to do anything through the air in this one. On the ground, Devontae Booker had 21 carries, 99 yards. He did leave the game with a hip injury. We'll see what happens if he's back next week or if Saquon's back. We don't know what his status is yet, but he's getting closer. Evan Ingram caught 3 balls for 38 yards and a touchdown. Galladay came back 2 for 28. Kadarius Toney 1 for 9, but they win.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Toney a little more involved.
They try to attempted a pass. I don't think he actually threw it. They just can't get the passing game going at all. I mean, it's been very impressive that Devontae Booker has been, as good as he's been. I'm not saying he's been tremendous, but the rushing game has been the only thing kind of keeping them afloat, and they're 3-6. They're not bad. For everything that's been going on, you think that if Saquon took this many games off, they would be in a much worse position. But they beat a Las Vegas team that's been doing very, very well. They're 5-3 now. On that, Derek Carr, 30 of 46, 296 yards, but 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. And Josh Jacob actually got it going a little bit, 13 carries for 76 yards.
Just not enough work.
Yeah, and usually lately when he's healthy, he's been more of a touchdown dependent kind of guy. So it's good to see him get the yardage finally. And the other guy that got it back going was Darren Waller. 7 catches for 92 yards. That's really good to see.
Better for that. Renfro gets his 7 for 49 and a touchdown. Renfro is obviously a much better PPR play than he is a standard play, even though touchdown. But all right.
And Drake actually too. I mean, he did go for 100 yards overall.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, how about Patriots, Panthers? Patriots have actually played pretty well lately. They win this one 24-6 pretty easily. They don't have to do much. Mac Jones did not have to do much at all. Only 12 for 18, 139 yards, touchdown, a pick. He just didn't need to do anything. On the ground, so Damian Harris did get banged up again in this one, right? He had 15 carries, 30 yards. He left with a head injury, it says. So he got injured in this one. Radre Stevenson looked good when he got a chance there. He had 108 total yards from Stevenson, who I loved Stevenson in the preseason. He wasn't, I think he was active in game 1, missed a block. You never saw the guy again for a while. And, he's talented enough to play. Problem is he also then left this one with, I believe, with a head injury as well. So we don't know how this is going to play out for next week. If Harris will be back, if Stevenson will be back, or is it just going to be the Brandon Bolden show? We just don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. And that's the problem with Patriots running backs. I mean, Harris has been great, but hopefully he's back and just can do it again. He got another touchdown today. But if it's Stevenson, he's interesting. But then again, he could be a healthy scratch. You never know with this team.
Right.
So there's that. And really through the air, they didn't have to do anything again. So Stevenson had the most receiving yards with 44. Kendrick Bourne had the most catches with 3.
And depending on the injuries, Brandon Bolden might actually show up on the waiver list.
Well, that's the interesting part. It's just like he's probably needs to be thrown out there, and Stevenson does too. We just won't know the situations yet, but they're definitely worth a look.
Yeah, because I mean, whoever does it, because of the offense they run, you're going to not only get a handful of carries, you'll probably get double digits, but you also catch the ball because they don't really throw it down the field at all.
Right.
So it's kind of funny to look at like their main receivers. And I mean, Kendrick Bourne is the only wide receiver in the top like 5, really. Yep. So it's kind of funny that way.
All right. And then for the Panthers, Sam Darnold is not good.
He is back to his old ways.
That first couple games was a mirage. That is for sure. He was 16 to 33 for 172 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks in this one. Christian McCaffrey did come back and had himself 106 total yards. But that's the worst of it probably for McCaffrey.
I was going to say, I love it too, because this was a bad game for him. Yep. I mean, he was, he himself is not bad. And New England does have a pretty decent defense when they put it all together. But it's so funny to watch it and being like, oh, yeah, how he got over 100 yards and I thought he had a bad game.
Yeah, he didn't do anything, gets 100 yards. Yeah, it just happens. DJ Moore was 3 for 32, and Robbie Anderson caught 1 ball for 2 yards. Yeah, it's a bad team. Now, all right, now this game, what the heck happened here? Jacksonville 9, Buffalo 6.
Dude, don't
even know what to say.
I know, this was a fun game to watch. Jacksonville's defense, whatever you say about their offense, they were not good. They did, like they did enough, like not turning it over, holding the ball a little bit. But Jacksonville's defense, I mean, hats off to them because they were incredible. And
Josh
they made
Allen on defense
look bad. And I don't think he really had that bad of a game. They just were constantly in his face, constantly hitting him, making people fumble. I mean, they forced a lot of turnovers in this.
The defensive Josh Allen had himself
career day practically. I mean, I think
8 tackles, recovery, a sack, a pick, and a fumble. Josh Allen destroyed Josh Allen for sure in this one.
He was unbelievable.
So let's say for the Jacksonville, I guess Trevor Lawrence, 15-26, 118 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. They didn't have to. It was not good. He wasn't good. This team offense wasn't good. There was no James Robinson, so it was Carlos Hyde with 21 carries, 67 yards. Again, just not good. Dan Arnold led the team with receiving with 4 for 60. I mean, Chenault was 4 for 24, Jones 3 for 21, just nothing there. But the Bills could not get anything going in a week where Josh Allen was probably ranked number 1 by a lot of people. Honestly, I think I might have ranked him number 1 this week. I believe
I did too.
It's going to hurt my thing. Actually, can hurt a lot. No one saw this coming. Like,
it's everyone's assuming that.
He was 31 of 47, 264, no touchdowns, 2 picks. He led the team on the ground with 5 carries for 50 yards. Singletary was 6 for 16, Moss 3 for 6. Diggs caught 6 for 85, Sanders 4 for 65, Singletary 7 for 43, Beasley 8 catches for 33 yards. I don't know. This is an odd one. This is like they just completely came in here, overlooked Jacksonville, did not even care, right? Weren't even looking for it. Don't know. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it really does echo how good the defense was when you look at the offensive numbers by Jacksonville. They're atrocious. I mean, they're really, really bad. When you only have 118 throwing yards and your leading rusher at 67, you obviously didn't have to do a whole lot. And to be fair, I don't think they turned unless they fumbled it. I don't believe they turned it over. I don't remember them turning it over, but I remember Buffalo turning it over a lot.
So now that Jacksonville has 2 wins, this pretty much guarantees the Lions the top 2 pick because they're not getting the 2 wins. It's just between them and Houston now for the top 2 pick. Lions aren't getting the 2.
Houston, I have a feeling they might slip underneath the radar and take that number 1. But the teams I thought were going to be really bad, like Atlanta even, are flying high. And there's a lot of parity in the NFL lately in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there is.
I am shocked at some of the ways that games are going right now. It just shows in over the period of a long season, things will happen and people will get hurt and, defenses will catch on to what you're trying to do. Yep. And if Jacksonville can beat Buffalo, any team in the NFL can beat any team.
Yeah, exactly. All right. How about Ravens, Vikings? Ravens win in overtime 34-31. Vikings had a good lead in this one. I think it was 21-7, something like that, but they blew this thing. Lamar threw for 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks, but he ran the ball 21 times for 120 yards. Wow, that's awesome. That's Lamar Jackson we know and love. Devontae Freeman at 13 for 79. Le'Veon Bell had 11 for 48 and a touchdown. Marquise Brown caught 9 balls for 116 off 12 targets. Bateman, I still like what I see. 5 for 52 to 8 targets. You know what? I feel like that's still the good path here. Brown's the number one, and he still has Andrews. That could be the prohibiting factor for him. But I like that he's getting targets and he's getting catches. Yeah,
I'll tell you. And watching this game, I think this is the difference where you have to figure out. Well, first of all, Lamar ran a lot in this game too, which takes away opportunities from other guys. That's totally fine. Bateman, when he got his opportunities, he made the catch. He looked the part. And we're just waiting for him to kind of break out and have that game. And I'll say this about Lamar, even though he had a very good game, if he tightens up that passing side of his offense of game, because he obviously did well. I mean, 266 with 3 touchdowns. He did fine. But he is a yard away. I mean, obviously the NFL is like a game of inches. If he dials it in like he was a couple of years ago, just a little bit more, he would have had a long throwing touchdown. He would have had a couple of guys across the middle. His day could have been way bigger. And that is pretty shocking since he already had a great day. And you can already see it. Like once they start getting down, they start like unleashing him a little bit. Like, okay, go ahead and run now. Go ahead. Here's a couple plays in a row to get us going in the right direction. And every time they do it, and I know that they want to keep him healthy, but it looks unstoppable. You're just kind of like, how in the world do you play against this offense when they're doing this kind of stuff? But they're a lot of fun to watch. And a couple of, it's not going to show up on anyone's fantasy team, but Devin Duvernay had an unbelievable
awesome catch. Yeah.
Unbelievable catch in the back of the end zone. And Ricard, the big man, having like a couple of plays that were just phenomenal, just running through people.
Yep.
So I got to give him a little bit of a shout out. He did get a touchdown, but obviously no one will ever care about him for fantasy. But it's
Devonte Freeman caught the other touchdown.
So, and then Le'Veon
Brown, Bateman, and Andrews didn't catch any of them. Went to those 3. So. For the Vikings here, Kirk Cousins was 17 of 28 for 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. Delvin Cook, 17 for 110, no touchdowns. He had one where I think it was they reversed it on him, and then it went to Cousins on the next one. Cousins got 1 rushing touchdown there. Justin Jefferson, 3 for 69. One was a 50-yard touchdown, though. Tyler Conklin, 5 for 45. Adam Thielen, 2 for 6, but hey, a touchdown.
Yeah. So, and Justin Jefferson had a very underwhelming game, it felt like, but it felt like every time they needed a major play, it was him. Yep. And 3 for 69 and a touchdown did not do what he did justice today. But Delvin Cook, as I wish they would have been able to give him more carries because he looked really, really strong. He looked really, really good.
All right, how about Chargers, Eagles? Chargers win 27-24 there at the end. They've struggled the last couple of weeks. They lost games, and then they barely beat an Eagles team. Again, there's a lot of teams that we think are good that can struggle. So Chargers are one of them. Herbert, 32 of 38, 356, 2 touchdowns. So it's a pretty solid day there. Austin Eckler, 17 carries for 59 yards. Herbert's the one who ran in a touchdown. Then Keenan Allen, 12 for 104 off 13 targets. Mike Williams, 2 for 58. This is the Mike Williams we used to know. I don't know. Mike Williams had some dominant games to start this season. And now his first 4 of his first 5 games were great, and he had 6 total touchdowns in those games. He looked like a monster. Week 4 was a little bad with the 1 for 11. And then week 6, 2 for 27, week 8, 2 for 19. And then this one, 2 for 58. This is actually one of his better ones in a while. It's strange. And the targets are down. It's, those 4 games that he's been terrible. He's had 4 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets. The ones he was great, 10, 9, 12, 16. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there. It's hard to say. I don't know if he just started getting some more attention. It's been better defenses. I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but
there's a couple of other things that came into play. I am wondering when Eckler came back, if that coincided with anything. I would have to look into it a little bit more. But the other one too is Justin Herbert has been quite up and down, actually. He really needed this big game for him. And because of the rushing touchdown, it really looks a lot bigger. But he really needed this because the last 2 games, he did not play very good football. And the first 2 games too, starting out, it wasn't nearly as what we expected. So he had 3 games or a little stretch where he was dominant again, and then he fell off. He's been very inconsistent. Where do you see him going forward? Do you see us more like this? Or are you kind of like, I'm willing to roll the dice and play the matchup because Herbert's been so up and down?
Like I said, I'd play the matchup in some situations. Depends on who you have, but I'm not that worried. I'm not that worried about him. I think I'd feel confident starting him, to be honest. It depends on what other player I had that I could play a matchup with, but I feel pretty decently confident in Herbert. So I'm going to roll with him most cases.
Okay. Speaking of that, going over to the other side, how do you feel about Jalen Hurts? Because he had a very unconventional stat line. Yeah. So only 11 for 17 throwing the ball, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, just not enough volume to do anything. He did rush the ball 10 times for 62 yards. So his overall day, once again, looks okay.
It saves it because that 62 yards is essentially a touchdown. So he saves it every time. But yeah, this is what can happen with Jalen Hurts. That's the thing when he's not necessarily that great of a quarterback all the time. You get games like this, but again, fantasy wise, it didn't kill you, right? You're okay. Again, this is another one where I don't know how you even play the matchups with Hurts, to be honest, because I don't think matchups matter with him necessarily, because he can just get loose and who knows what can happen. So I think I would probably just keep rolling with Hurts if you have him too. Same thing. You're going to get some good games. I mean, next week against Denver, actually the next 2 weeks are a little iffy. Denver and New Orleans, not loving those two matchups.
Yeah.
So it really depends on who else you have, where if you do have another quarterback that has a good matchup, maybe you do put them in. After that, though, it's Giants and Jets, and then he has a bye, and then Washington. So I love that stretch. So these next 2 weeks are a little risky, and then after that, you just throw him in. You don't think about it again. So that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah.
I guess for the rest of the Eagles, Jordan Howard, 17 carries, 71 yards, a touchdown. Didn't really think we'd be talking about Jordan Howard this year, but here we are. Boston Scott at 10 for 40. Kenny Gainwell, though, gets the touchdown on 2 for 3.
Yeah, turning into quite a nightmare trying to figure out their backfield. How are you? I mean, once again, people are picking these guys up mostly for bye week fillers, mostly for streaming. But if you had to choose between one of these guys in order to start next week, who are you looking at? Are you going for Jordan Howard?
It's probably Jordan Howard, honestly. I think from what I've seen, it's probably Jordan Howard.
What a crazy turnaround.
Yeah.
It went from Gainwell to Boston Scott to now everyone's kind of like, I guess Jordan Howard has the best opportunity at a touchdown.
Gainwell's just not an option at all to me.
No, I mean, it's a quick fall off from grace.
Then the receiver. So there's only 11 completions, so there wasn't much to go around, but Devonte Smith had 5 for 116 and a touchdown. Goddard 3 for 43 and Quez Watkins 2 for 9. Jalen Reagor 1 for -6.
And for only 162 yards to go around, Davonte Smith had a really solid game because over 100 yards and a touchdown, and he didn't have one bomb, which is usually what you see if you have over 100 like this. It was only 28 yards as his long. He's starting to come into his own. I'm not, it's one of those that's very hard to get behind this year because they're not a prolific throwing offense, but he's starting to get his legs underneath him. That's very, very good to see because it almost looked like it was going to be a lost year at first. You know what I mean?
Yep. All right. Chiefs, Packers. Chiefs win 13-7, but that doesn't say much about their offense right now. It's still not looking great.
I tell you, this is one of them where the Green Bay defense deserved a win. And it just shows you how different this team is without Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love, I mean, he tried. I mean, it's a hard game to come into. I know that Kansas City has been struggling a little bit, but they needed to win desperately. They came in showing that. But yeah, he just he couldn't get the job done. But I think there's a lot of things to like about what he was able to do. So if he has to play again, who do they play actually? Yeah, who do they play next week?
Let me pull this up here. They play Seattle next week. So I guess the earliest Rodgers could come back is Saturday. So as long as doesn't have a positive test Saturday, he's good to go. But man, Aaron Rodgers is an interesting character. I'll say that. That's for sure.
Man, that Green Bay has been an interesting show to watch the past year.
It is.
Just with everything going on.
You start to wonder if they might just be a little tired of his act over there in Green Bay at this point, but he's so good. It shows.
I was going to say, no, they're not.
No, you're going to live with it. You're going to live with it.
It will be that talk for 1 week. and he comes back and wins, and everyone will shut the F up, and it will be hilarious to watch everyone go back about how great he is. It's going to be embarrassing.
He is a good football player, that's for sure. You're going to deal with it.
Whatever else you want to say about him, he's a great football player.
He is, that's for sure.
And as soon as you start losing games like this, you're kind of like, I don't care what you're into. So we'll find out. But honestly, this was the one thing they could run the ball. I was really surprised. I wish they would have stuck with the run a little bit more. But Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon were getting it done.
They weren't even far off. The most it ever was 13-0. That's the furthest they were ever down. They could have stuck to it.
Exactly. I wish they would have, because Aaron Jones had 12 carries for 53 yards and AJ Dillon had 8 for 46. Neither of them really ripped off a long run either. They were just consistently getting good runs in. And then everyone else, as far as throwing the ball, and Lazard did have the lone touchdown.
It was a good touchdown too, to get away from I think Sorensen there from the Chiefs. But and Adams was targeted 14 times, but only turned it into 42 yards off 6 catches. So Love was trying to get him the ball, it just wasn't there.
Yeah, you could see that was the game plan. I guess that's the game plan every time
pretty much
goes out there.
Yep. For the Chiefs, Mahomes was 20 for 37. 166 yards and a touchdown.
Okay. Be honest about this. Is this the first time you've ever thought, like, maybe I start someone else instead of Mahomes until they get their act together?
Mahomes has 2 touchdown passes in the last 3 weeks. That's it.
Yeah. And no one wants to pull him off because they know what he's capable of.
I think you just play it. You have to go with it. Right. The matchups don't really say not to, playing the Raiders and then Dallas. You do, but it is strange. Like, he is really pressing right now. These are the fantasy outputs the last 3 weeks. This week was 12.4. Last week, 16. The week before, 7.7. So remember, even earlier, there was the talk of things where they were struggling a bit, but fantasy wise, it wasn't happening. It was fine. He started the year 39 points, 30 points, 28 points, 41 points, 22 points, 26 points. So even though there has been talk about struggling, it wasn't truly happening. Then I don't know. Now it's like almost like that stuff was there because of the picks and they weren't playing as well. And it got in his head almost. It's like now it's, I think, in his head. That's what it feels like at this point, because it's ugly these last 3 weeks.
And they're not, and I don't know if it's the line or what, but they're not able to get enough time to stretch the field, which is what they were so deadly about. And Tyreek Hill himself, what has his numbers looked like?
Yeah. So 4 for 37 in this one. Last week, he did have the 12 catches last week for 94. That was a big one. 12 for 94 touch. But that's the interesting thing. 12 for 94 is not a thing for him. Like that little of yards per catch was odd. Then before that, he was 6 for 49, 9 for 76, 7 for 63. So he's had 3 like good games this year. Week 1, 11 for 197, a touchdown. Then he was 3 for 14. Then he was 5 for 56. Then it was 11 for 186 and 3 touchdowns.
I mean, when he goes off, he goes off. And we know that he is definitely more up and down.
Yeah.
But we didn't quite expect this. I mean, this has been the whole offense. So it's hard to really put that into perspective. But I have not been, I mean, even Travis Kelce has had down games like this whole offense has. And that is very, I don't know. I don't know what to chalk it up to. And I think that is what's so worrying about it. You can't just point to something and say, fix this.
No,
it's like a bigger issue.
No, if it's the line's issue, that's not that easy of a fix. So
no. And I know that all of these guys are big names. I do want to say, because I know that there's going to be a lot of trade deadlines coming up. When you look at this team and you look at Mahomes and Kelce and Tyreek and whoever else, I guess that's pretty much the end of the list until maybe Edwards-Helaire comes back or something. Are there any guys that you'd be targeting right now? More than likely, they're big names and people aren't going to be looking for them. Or are there any guys that you would be willing to get rid of because you think that you can get something better in return?
I'd be willing to get rid of any of them at this point. Really? I don't think I'd be trading for him. I don't think I would.
Well, what about Kelce? You would be willing to get rid of Kelce?
I would, honestly. I honestly would.
He still has 68 touchdown.
Yeah, he's still pretty solid. I still would, though, because I think Travis Kelce can still bring you something worthwhile.
Oh, no, without a doubt.
That's where I think
that he would be the biggest name probably in this.
So I would entertain, before I would never even think of trading any of these guys. But right now, at least I would entertain the offers, right? Okay. I would look around. I mean, I most likely don't end up dealing any of them, except I think Tyreek's the easiest one for me to trade, to be honest. If there's one of them, Tyreek's probably the easiest of the ones for me that I would be like really willing to get him, because I think you get
the week to week production.
Yeah, it's just, and this isn't, to me, that's not even new with Tyreek. That's been a thing. That's always been a thing for me with him.
The thing that worries me, and these are usually one big performance can win a week, right? Yep. And Tyreek is that guy. So we saw it with like Connor today was a big production. When, someone like Josh Allen goes off for 50 points, those guys really can win you a whole week. And we know the pain of going to the playoffs and one guy really makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. Does that ever enter your mind when you're kind of like, I'm gearing up for playoffs? Tyreek could be that guy, or are you still willing to say, no, I'm going to build a complete team, and if that happens, I'm willing to risk it?
I let me see. Who do they play week 15? Let's pull this up. At the Chargers. Not bad. Still, if I can get some pieces for Tyreek Hill that are still good, really good, I would entertain. I'm not just going to go trade him to trade him. I'm going to entertain offers though. I'd look around to get a good deal. All right, looks like we got one final game here. Cardinals 49ers. Cardinals were without Kyler Murray, without DeAndre Hopkins, and it didn't matter. They go to 8-1 with a 31-17 win. Colt McCoy just came in and played solid. 22 for 26, 249, a touchdown. He does.
I'll say more than solid. I was impressed with what he was able to do today.
Colt McCoy over his career, I feel like he's been a solid player when he's gotten opportunities. When he got opportunities with Washington before, I always felt like he was solid. He's not the greatest thing in the world, but he's always been a solid quarterback. Like, he's a good backup, right? He's a good backup. Yeah. That's pretty much, he's been around for a while now. Cleveland, San Francisco, Washington, Giants, and now the Cardinals. So he's been around a lot of teams, but it was solid. He's a good backup to have for them. But
this
really
just shows too how solid of a team the Cardinals are. They're a legit contender. Even when you lose that kind of people, most teams would fluctuate. I mean, we've seen it all year. They played every single team very, very hard. Even that loss was, incredibly close.
Yep.
Man, I was so impressed. And Colt McCoy too, even more so. He got it done, but being 22 of 26, I thought was exactly what you needed to go ahead and do. I know it was a lot of short passes, but he was precise. They were very, very sharp when they could have had a letdown.
Yep. Then this was the James Conner show though. In this one, Edmonds goes out with an ankle injury early. So it's all James Conner, 21 carries, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught 5 for 77 in a touchdown. Wow. So Jeff, I was joking, in our league, you traded away Delvin Cook as a keeper league deal where you're playing for next year. You got James Conner. You might've got the better running back.
I know. And I had talked to the person I traded with too. I kind of talked to him about that one because he's not a keeper. Right. Like in my mind, he definitely is not a keeper. Well, I know. Yeah. If he keeps doing this, but he wasn't a keeper, but he has such touchdown upside because this offense is so potent.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those back and forths. And I was like looking at who I got for Delvin, because I love Delvin, but I also got Marquise Brown and money. But I was kind of like, I actually think I have a better team now. And then I went crazy on the waiver wires, but I think I actually subtract, addition by subtraction, even though Delvin is the better player. But, getting enough pieces to really move forward after injuries and everything else didn't pan out.
This one, it really shows the difference of having Edmonds out, though, is the receiving. Because on the year before this, James Conner had a total of 5 catches through the first 8 games. He gets 5 in this one. He had a total of 34 yards off those 8 catches, and he gets 5 for 77 in touchdown. But that's without Edmonds in this one, so he's the one in the whole time.
Do you think this will expand his role at all?
It really could, because Chase Edmonds has just not done much for me. Like Chase Edmonds
he's been fine.
He's fine, but he's just never, I don't know. I always feel like there should be more with Chase Edmonds than there ever is. He's had a couple solid outings on the year, right? But just never quite what you'd want to see from him.
Well, it's kind of a name you toss around probably the past 3 years. Like, he's ready to break out. He's ready to do it. And then they pair him with Drake. Then they pair him with whoever. And you're kind of like, okay, he just never really gets going. And I know that there's a lot of talk even recently about he's ready to break out and he's ready to take over. And because, Connor was kind of just taking all of the goal line stuff after this game. And Connor has done it before, right? I mean, we watched him be very, very productive on Pittsburgh only a couple of years ago.
Yep. So
it does make me very interested. I don't know. I don't think that they're going to completely shift towards Connor, but you do wonder, like, will he get, 2-3 targets thrown his way a game? Will they run more heavily when they're a little bit more banged up like they did today? 21 carries is a very healthy load. So it all depends if Murray and however this team goes, I think Connor could be a very productive guy. And even when they're in, that touchdown upside kind of keeps him relevant. I don't know. He's overproducing. Like, I don't expect this every week, but it feels like every week I talk about him, like, there's no way he can get 2 more touchdowns. There's no way he can do this.
He just keeps doing
it. Yeah, and he keeps doing it. So I don't know. I mean, at this point, if you have him, you're not getting rid of him. You can't really trade for him.
It just feels like this is something where the momentum's building. And he's just going to keep doing it. That's just what it feels like to me.
Yeah, he feels like one of those names you get at the end of the year.
Yeah, it just feels like one of those. Just you don't know how it keeps happening, but it keeps producing, and that just feels like what's going to be. Then and with 49ers side of things, your Garoppolo's 28 for 40, 326, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Elijah Mitchell only had 8 carries because they were down early and they just couldn't get the ground game going. He had 8 for 36. There's just nothing there. No, it's not like anybody else had carries. Hasty had 1. Garoppolo had 1. Brandon Ayuk had 1. There was some interesting things in the passing game, I guess. Kittle came back and was 6 for 101 and a touchdown, which is solid. But Brandon Ayuk actually played pretty well, 6 for 89 touchdown. And Debo, then he goes 5 for 63. The targets were split there between Kittle, Ayuk, and Samuel there, which is interesting. Now with Kittle back, Brandon Ayuk taking a little bit bigger of a role, Debo drops a little bit. We'll see if that, and then Elijah Mitchell caught 5 balls as well. We'll see if that it's a 1 week thing or if Debo becomes more of what we thought. Like, Debo's been great, and it just still never 100% feels real to me. So we'll see if
I feel the same way. And this was the first game where I was like, oh, this is what we were talking about with Ayuk. And we're like, in the preseason, because he was the one that wasn't hurt at the end of the year. So he was the one that was getting all the love. And he finally looked really, really good. And they were looking for him all sorts of plays. And he almost made a couple of really, really big plays. And he did catch a touchdown, 89 yards. It was all beautiful. But I do wonder, and they were going against Cardinals. So I would love to see it against a middle NFL team compared to like the best one right now. But Kittle he was the wild card coming back and, going over 100 yards. That has to eat into something, right? They're not going to completely go away from the run. They're not going to, and Garoppolo, once again, isn't known for throwing it 40 times, even though he obviously did today. But if Elijah Mitchell is like the only guy that you have at running back that's healthy, you do wonder if you're going to start pressing it. And it might actually be easier to get the ball in a bunch of these different guys' hands because there's 3 of them. You can now spread the defense a lot more. I don't know what this means, though. Are you less does this pretty much just make you a little more worried about every single guy in here, or is it kind of like Kittle is kind of back and he's the one I like the most, and now I think that the other guys will just eat into each other's production?
Not sure yet. Ayuk, I just wonder if I don't buy it yet. Debo, we've seen, even though I didn't buy Debo's like crazy production, I still feel like he's done enough where
he kept doing it though.
Where I at this point, if I had to, I would still say, okay, I'm still going to believe Kittle's going to do his thing. Debo's going to be good, but not the level he's been because just a Kittle in general. So yeah, Debo's probably going to fall slightly to me just because there's no way he can continue that production that he had without Kittle there.
You can't have 150 yards every time out.
Yeah, it just can't happen. So I think he's still going to be very productive. Ayuk's the interesting one. I just don't know if I buy it yet. It's been too weird yet this year. We'll see how it plays out. But all right. Well, there we go. That's week 9 in the NFL. We got 2 more games left. Rams are playing right now, and Stafford has like 4 fantasy points in the 4th quarter. I don't know what's going on. Don't know what's going on this week. It's crazy. But all right, that'll do it for today. We'll be back with waivers. Talk to you guys then.